Hey everybody, welcome to part 5 in a series of videos for 504. Now this is the third gameplay video. In this video I'm going to show you one of the final worlds. This is going to make a lot more sense. I'm going to wrap this all up together when I give you my final review. But this is going to be world number 645, or as the game calls it, the world of networking generals on their way to the unknown. Sorry, I had to stretch to read that. So basically in this world, players are going to be, this is going to be a little bit more of a race style game because players are going to gain victory points by being the first ones to build roads onto certain kind of terrains, and this is going to be based on the majority board. As soon as you build a road between two kinds of terrain, you're going to move up on the majority board. At the end of the game, you're going to gain victory points depending on where your place is on the majority board. Players are also going to base their income based on what kind of settlements they have across the world. As they add settlements to the world, that's going to affect their income, but as they build roads, it's going to give them permanent victory points, and they can never lose those victory points. So it's a race because you want to be the first one to build that road, because if you build that road, you lock in the victory points, nobody can take them from you. But you do have to defend your military, because if players take away your settlements, they can take away your income, because your income is basically a snapshot of all the current land tiles that you currently control. Now in this world, the game is going to be played until all 40 roads have been built, and once all 40 roads have been built, that's basically going to bring about the end of the game. Of course, I'm not going to play that much of the game. I'm just going to show you the differences between this world and the other two worlds. Again, just juggling everything up and showing you how the gameplay can change depending on what location each module is in, whether it's within top 1, top 2, or top 3. So I have the game set up again for a 3-player game between purple, blue, and white. We're going to start with the purple player. Again, we're going to start, every player is going to start with their income of $60, $70, and $80. Everybody's going to start with majority board. We are going to get victory points now for desert tiles, and we're going to see everything down here. This is how much it's going to cost for us to build a road based on however many residents it's going to take to build a road between two tiles. This is the amount of victory points we're going to get for each one of those tiles at the end of the game, as long as we were the first to build that road, again, on the majority board. And we're also going to get a bonus extra set of victory points at the end of the game if we have a complete set of every single tile built in our empire. Again, it is a race. We can't take those victory points away from another player. First come, first serve. And not only that, exploration is going to be done a little bit differently in this module, because one explorer, one resident, can actually explore every single tile around them. If even one of those tiles comes back as a land tile, this resident is going to be discarded back to that player's supply. But if all the tiles are explored by this one resident, if every single one of them, I must emphasize all of them, come back as water, this resident is simply going to return to the original tile as an exhausted resident. So those are the basic, all the rules for this world number 645, the world of networking generals on their way to finding the unknown. So everything is set up. We have the game set up for a 3-player game. All their players have their starting income of $60, $70, and $80. We have the starting world right here. We have the very, very important speedboat, which is very important, used in 100% of the games. Ignore what the rule says, it's used in every single one of the games. We're going to start the game with the purple player, who starts with $60. We'll simply use all 60 of our dollars to buy 6 residents, add all 6 of the residents to the board, and now we need to start doing some exploring. Remember, exploring is done a little bit differently. Let's go ahead and start exploring and see exactly what kind of lands we're going to find. So our very first intrepid explorer is going to leave the lands, and he's going to go out there and explore all the tiles all around him. We'll start in a circular, or sorry, just in a clockwise pattern. We'll start with this tile right here, or this possible location right here, and we're going to add all our exploration tokens out and see exactly what kind of tile we can find here. Since this is next to a water and a city tile, we know that this cannot be a water or a city tile. So we simply put out all of our exploration tiles. We're rolling the die, and we're going to see what kind of result we're going to get. We'll get a 4, so we'll look at all our exploration tiles, and we'll see that the very first thing we managed to find was a mountain. So since we know we're not finding all water, we found at least one land tile. We know this guy will be discarded, so we'll go ahead and discard him. And let's go ahead and figure out exactly what kind of tile we're going to find right here. It's next to a city, so we know that it cannot be a city tile. It's one away from the center tile, so it can be a water tile. Roll the die. We will get a 1. We'll find the 1 will be a forest. Next location will be this one right here. It cannot be a city. It can be a water tile. We are 2 away from the center tile, so we know it can't be a desert. We'll adjust the exploration tokens. We'll roll the die. We'll end up getting a 4, which means that this will be a mountain also. We'll explore this tile right here. Same rules, can't be a city. We're 2 away from the center tile, so we get 2 exploration tiles for the water. Roll the die. We will end up getting a 5, which means that we're going to find a field. And then finally for this final tile right here, same rules, except we're going to change the water because we're only one away. So we have a possibility of finding a desert. Roll the die. We will get a 6, and that does mean we do indeed happen to find a desert in this world. That one explorer was able to explore all of these locations all around him and gain all those different land tiles, opening up the board for the purple player. Now that we're finished with our exploration for all of our intrepid residents, we're all going to have all of our residents all move out into the adjacent lands. They're going to move out, and every one of these guys is going to turn into a settlement. So we get to add 5 residents to the board because we managed to explore 5 different locations with our residents, which is open up the board for us, which is going to increase our income quite well, which is going to be very, very nice for us. We don't have any residents left. There's no more actions we have left to take. So the only thing left to do is to figure out exactly what our income is going to be at the end of our turn. So to figure out our income, remember we get a basic income for a capital, which is going to be 20. Plus we're going to get $5 for every single location as one of our settlements on it. So that's going to be 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, $45 worth of income. And then plus we're going to get a bonus income for having our settlements on different variety of different kind of tile types. So we know that we're going to get a bonus of 20 looking at the bonus table. So we get 45 from everything we have here, plus our bonus of 20, so our total income is going to be 65. So you can see that this is going to be a much higher dollar game than the prior world we just played, where you saw that the income was a little bit hard to come upon, but now we're seeing this world is going to play quite differently, and we have a lot more residents to work with. That's going to be the end of the purple player's turn. We now get to move to the blue player's turn, who has $70. They get to spend all $70 to bring out 7 residents onto the board. We're going to come into play, fully active, fully ready to head out there and explore the world, except they need less explorers to do so. We're simply going to start with 1 explorer who's going to go out there and explore all the lands around their starting capital city. So we'll just start around, going around in a circle. We'll pick this location right here. Can't be a city, can't be a water tile. So we will simply roll the die. Our very first location is going to be number 1. So the first thing we will find is we will find a forest tile. So we know this resident is going to disappear. We'll discard them right now. This location right here is possibility for no city. We can possibly have 2 water tiles, and we'll move everything down. Roll the die. We'll roll a 1, and we'll find another forest. Obviously, if this was a fantasy world, these would be the elves of the world. We'll go over to this tile right here. 2 away from the center city, so we know that it can't be a city. 2 exploration tiles for the water. We'll roll the die for the location. We'll get a number 4, which means we have managed to find some mountains. We'll roll for this tile. We are next to a city, so it can't be a city. We're 2 away from the center tile when it comes to the water, so that looks correct. Roll the die. We'll end up getting a 1, getting another forest space, emphasizing the fact that these are probably the elves of this fantasy world. Finally, we'll roll for this tile. We are 1 away from the center tile, so we only get 1 for the water. Let's see if we can roll a 1 again just to make everything look very cool. We will have a nice forest, and if this was one of those games that's a little more thematic and a little less generic, I would definitely replace every one of these tokens with some elves because we have a nice forest land to start with the blue player. For the blue player now, all we have to do is move all of our residents out into the adjoining neighboring territories. Every one of them is then going to turn immediately into a settlement. So we have to add 5 settlements onto the board, but we actually have 1 worker left over, and now we need to figure out what we want to do with this 1 worker, if we want to have him move out or if we want to have him do something else. I am going to have him move out to this tile right here. Since he moved, that does mean he is exerted, he's exhausted, and his turn is over. That is it for the blue player. Now we just need to figure out exactly what the blue player's income is going to be. We're going to get 20 income for a capital, plus we're going to get 25 for having 5 different tiles with our settlements on it. That's going to be 45 total dollars, plus we're going to get a bonus for having our settlements on a variety of different kinds of tiles. Now, if we look at the bonus chart, we'll know that if we have our settlements on 2 different kinds of tiles, that's only going to be a bonus of 5 extra dollars. So we have 20 plus 25 is 45, plus 5 for the variety is going to be a total of $50 for the blue player. The blue player's turn is over. We move over to the white player, who's simply going to spend all 80 of their starting dollars to bring out their 8 residents onto the board. And we know the very first resident that they're going to put out there is going to be used to explore. And we're going to figure out what kind of lands they're going to explore just simply going around. We'll move this explorer out. We'll start with this location right here. We'll start by rolling the die, figure out what we'll get. We will roll a 1, so they will find a forest space. This explorer will check this location. We'll have the same criteria. We won't have to adjust any of the tiles at all. We'll roll a 4, which will mean we will find a mountain. And then next we'll move to this location right here, which should be no city, 2 away. So we'll move like this, and we'll move like this, figuring out quickly. Roll on number 4, which means we've managed to find another mountain. So maybe we've managed to find the dwarves of this fantasy world. I'm completely making up to add a little more excitement here. Roll for this location, we'll roll a 5, and well, we'll blow that theory out. There's no more mountains for dwarves. And then we'll get this location right here, which is 2 away, so 2 water tiles, no city. Same rules, roll the die, we will roll a 4, and oh, maybe we're back to believing they're dwarves because I have managed to find even more mountain tiles. So now every one of these players will move out into the adjoining lands. They'll all exhaust by doing that. Every single one of them will turn into a settlement by doing that. So now as a white player, we now have 5 settlements on the board, and we still have 2 workers left over to go ahead and figure out what we want to do with those 2 workers left over. I will take the first worker, and they'll move over out onto this location right here. Second one will move out onto, try and do this as efficiently as possible. I probably actually would have been better to move that one there, and then that'll exhaust them. This worker will move over here, and that will exhaust them. And now we're done with the white player. We just need to figure out exactly what our income is going to be. Our income is going to be 20 for a capital, plus 25 is a total of 45. And then we have 3 different tile types, which is a bonus of $10. So we have 20, plus 25 is 45, plus 10 more is going to be a total of $55. The white player at the end of the very first round has $55. And that's 1 complete round of this world of 645. Now we're back to the purple player's turn. This is the start of round number 2. We're going to spend 60 of our $65, which will give us 6 residents to place on the board. Remember, we have to make sure we're obeying all the rules of where we can add residents onto the board in legal positions. Place 1 resident here, 1 resident right there, and I'll place a resident there, and then I'll place the other 3 residents around the capital. I think that'll work if I just did the mental math there very, very quickly, and hopefully I did that right. So now starting with our turn, we need to figure out exactly what we're going to do. The very first thing we're going to do is this resident and this resident and this resident are all going to lay down, and they're going to exhaust, and one of them is going to be discarded, which is going to allow them to build a road because that's a higher cost between the 2 land tiles right there. So we have spent our cost there. We have now managed to connect 1 city, and we managed to connect a city to a desert space. So the purple player gets to mark a city, and they get to mark a desert space, and they've already started earning victory points towards the victory of the game. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to exhaust this resident, and we will exhaust this resident right there. This resident is going to be discarded back to the supply, and then we are going to go ahead and build a road that's going to be between this desert space and this field right here. And if we ever forget the costs are listed right here. The desert is the more expensive of the 2. Taking 2 residents, but now that we've managed to add a field, we have now increased our score, and we're further along, closer to winning the game. Remember, the game's going to end once the 40th neutral road has been built, and of course we're going to score victory points based on this majority board. So we have 1 explorer left. This 1 explorer is going to explore these 3 areas around him. We'll start with this city or this tile location right here. It can't be a water tile. It can't be a city tile at all. So we'll simply roll the die. We will end up getting a 5, which will give us an additional field. Place the field tile on the map. This guy will be discarded because we know he's not going to find only water. We'll explore this tile right here, and we are 1 away from the closest city. We are 1 away from the center tile, and then we simply, after we destroy everything, we'll fix it all, and then we'll roll the die, end up getting a 4, which means we are going to add a mountain onto this space right here. So now we have 1 more tile to possibly place. We're going to place that tile right here. We are 1, 2 away from the center city, so we know that we're going to have 2 for the water. We are 1 away from the closest city, so we can possibly have a city appear. Roll on the die, we'll get a 6, which will give us a grassland space. We'll add that grassland space to the board, and that will be it for the purple player. The only thing left for the purple player to do is to collect their income. Not too much has changed for the purple player, so their income is going to be $65 again. I'll just grab $70, and I'll put my $5 back so I know that next round I can grab 7 residents and put them to work. That's pretty much the end of the purple player's turn. We now get to move to the blue player, who has $50, which allows them to bring out 5 residents. We'll bring out all 5 of our residents onto the board, and we will add every single one of them into our capital city. Actually, nope, we don't need to do that. Actually, nope, we'll do that. Our final worker will stand up, but we'll take care of this very quickly. This guy will exhaust, and this guy will exhaust, plus this guy will exhaust. This guy will disappear back to the supply, and we're going to build a road, and we are now 1 point up on the mountains for the blue player. Then we'll exhaust these 3 guys right here. One of them will go back into our supply, and then we are going to go ahead and build a road from our city into one of the forests. So the blue player is now so closer to getting some victory points and moving towards winning the game. That's it for the blue player. The only thing left to do is to figure out how much income we're going to have. We'll have 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45. Plus we have 2 different kinds of tiles. That'll give us $50 exactly. We'll take our income, and it's now over to the white player's turn, who has $55, which will allow them to add 5 workers onto the board. And we'll just simply need to figure out where we want to add these workers onto the board. This will be pretty easy for us. We'll just take all 5 of our workers, put them in our center tile or our capital city for the white player. And then from there, the first thing we will do is we'll stand up this guy right here, and we'll also stand up this guy right here. And then from here, we'll have these 2 guys lay down, and then this guy will also lay down. We'll discard this guy right here, and that'll allow us to build 1 city. We now connected our city to a forest. So since we have that, we'll mark their city. And then we will mark a forest for us also, mark it on the majorities board. And then after that, we'll move all 3 of these guys over here onto this adjoining tile right here. And then to connect a forest to a field should be 2. Yep. So this guy will lay down, this guy will lay down and be discarded. He will turn into a road. We've now connected our empire to a field space, so we will mark that on the majorities board to let us know that we've done so. And then we will have this guy explore, and we'll also have this guy explore. We'll start with this guy first. He'll explore this tile right here. And we are 1 away from the closest city, so we'll get a city location or exploration token. We are 2 from the center tile, so we put 2 on the water space. And then roll the die and figure out exactly what kind of tile we're going to find here. Roll to 6, which means we managed to find another grassland. We'll add the grassland tile to the board, and then this worker will be put back into our supply. And then we have this worker right here who's exploring this tile, and this tile. We'll start right here, which means it can't be a water space, it can't be a city space. Simply move our exploration tokens over, and now since we've run out of all of these spaces right here, there's no more potential for mountains. That means that we have a greater chance of finding a forest on this location. Roll the die, we will get a 3, which means we managed to find a forest. We'll roll for this location, which is 1 from the center tile, 1 from the closest city. So we'll get like that, and that'll go like that. Roll the die, we'll end up getting a 5, which means we managed to find some grains, a field. And then finally we'll roll for this location, which is 2 away from the center city. So we will have 2 possible water, 1 away from the closest natural, or the closest, next closest city. So we'll have 1 for the city, 2 for the water, roll the die. We'll end up getting a 4, which means we managed to find a water space. So normally when you find a water space, you go back to the tile you started from on unexhausted, but unfortunately since he did find 2 other land tiles, he's actually still going to be removed from the board, and that's it for the white player. The only thing left to do is to figure out our income. And our income isn't going to change much, so we know we're going to make $55, so we basically have $60 left over. That's the end of it for the white player. We now get to move back to the purple player, who currently has $70, which means they can purchase 7 workers and add them onto the board. And they need to figure out how they want to do this, and they're trying to figure out how they can start gaining some victory points, because remember, it's a race to get these roads built as quickly as we can, because once these roads are built, we're going to get extra victory points for them. So I will just simply, since we have a lot of mountains to deal with at the start of this game so far, I am thinking that we will add our workers something like this, and hopefully this will work out in our benefit. So the first thing we need to do is stand up all of our workers who happen to be laying down. None of our workers are exhausted, and the first thing we are going to do is we're going to build a road from this tile, this city tile to this mountain tile, which is going to be 3 workers. We'll exhaust these 2 workers, plus we'll exhaust this 1 worker right here. We'll discard that 1 worker, which is going to allow us to build 1 road. And now that we've managed to connect our city to a mountain space, the purple player gets to mark mountains for themselves. So that's some more victory points at the end of the game. Next thing we have to do is we have some workers left over. We need to figure out what we want to do. I'll move 1 worker along this road, which won't cost any exhaustion for him. And then this worker will move over into this grassland tile right here, which will allow him to turn into a settlement. The next thing we'll do is we will have these 3 workers move over into this tile right here, and then they will build a road from this mountain over into this grassland. So we know that 2 of them are going to be put on their side, 1 of them is going to be discarded. That'll add 1 road, and then we're going to get another victory point on the majority board, and this one will be for the grassland. We have 3 workers left over, and we can do a lot of things with these workers. We decide to explore, or we can start building some roads and connecting that mountain, which will give us 1 more set of victory points, but it won't give us any extra income, and income is something that's very, very important right now this early in the game. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to have this worker explore. He's going to explore these 3 neighboring locations. We'll start with this one right here, which can't have a water space on it, can't have a city. So we'll roll the die. We'll end up with a 3, which means we're going to get a grassland. Simply slide that grassland in there. This worker will be removed since he went to work and we didn't find only water. We know we're not going to find only water. Check this tile right here. We are 2 away from the closest city. I'm sorry, 1 away from the closest city, 1 away from the nearest, or 1 away from the center city. So we have a possibility of getting each one of those. Roll the die. We will end up with a 6, which means we will find a desert. And then finally rolling for this location, which will be 2 for water, 1 for city. Get a 6, which means we will find a water space. We'll add that water space to the board, and then this worker will move over here and turn into a settlement. This worker will move over here and also turn into a settlement, and that'll increase our income. And that'll be it for the purple player. That's all the movements we can do. Now the only thing left to do is to figure out what our income is going to be. So to figure out our income, we take our income from our capital, which is 20. 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 55, 60. Plus we have a settlement on at least one of every single kind of land-based tile right out there right now. So that's going to be an additional 30. So our total income is going to be $90. So the purple player who's managed to explore and expand very, very well has a very, very good income. And now we get to move over to the blue player who will spend all 50 of his dollars, and he'll get 5 of his residents that he gets to place out on the board. We need to figure out how we want to expand, and we want to figure out how we can expand in a way that's going to make us a lot of money, because we want to make sure that we are starting to make the income, because income is going to be the best way for us to make sure that we stay in this game and we don't get left behind. So we'll start with this worker right here. He is going to explore, and we need a roll. We'll start with this spot right here, which means 3 water, 1 city. Roll the die, and we'll end up with a 4, which means we managed to find a water space. So he's not out of it yet. He may, if we get 2 more water spaces, he may stick around a little bit longer. We'll roll for this space right here, which is still 3 away and 1 away. So the same setup will remain the same. We'll roll a 5, which means we have managed to find another water space. So if we get water right here, this resident is actually not going anywhere, and we have pretty much a 50-50 shot at this point. We'll roll a 3, which means he is going to go away. We will find a grassland space. Add that to the board. He will go back into our supply. We're done with that guy for now. Now we need to figure out what we want to do with these guys over here. This guy is going to move over to that tile right there, and he will turn into a settlement. This guy is going to explore. We'll start with this tile right here. We are 2 for water, 1 for city, and roll the die. We'll end up getting a 3, which means we managed to find a grassland space. So we know that he's going to disappear. He will go ahead and finish his exploration though, and we're going to explore, and we're going to check out this tile right here, and we are 1, 2, 3, so that's 3 possible for the water. 1 for the city. Roll the die. We will end up with a 2, which means we managed to find a city for this player. So the city will be added onto the board. This resident will move over here. He will turn into a settlement right here. We're done with that. This player, or this resident right here, will explore. He's going to explore this location right here. If we get water, he's fine. Otherwise, he's going to disappear from the board. So we have 1, 2 from the city. So that's 2 for water. We're 1 away from the nearest city. We'll roll the die. We'll get a 4, which means we managed to find a water tile. That's it for his explorations. He will come back over on this tile exhausted. And now we have these 4 workers at the center of the board. We need to figure out what we want to do with these workers. If we want to try to figure out if we want to do roads or do something else. And it's definitely something else we want to do. We'll move these 2 workers along this road and these 2 workers along the road right here. Then these guys are going to come over here and they will exhaust. These 2 guys will come over here and exhaust. And before I forget, we got to make sure we add the barracks and the barbarians to the city that we just discovered. Now that we're done with all of our movements, we're going to go ahead and we're going to do 2 quick battles. We'll start with this battle right here and we will attack. There's no penalties or bonuses to combat on this tile at all since it is a desert tile. We simply roll the die. We'll end up getting a 5 and a 3. That means this settlement is destroyed, is removed from the board, affecting purple's income. Purple gets to do a retaliatory strike. They'll roll a 1. Nothing will happen. This guy will be removed. He'll immediately turn into a settlement, which is going to be more income for us. We'll do this combat right here. Roll the dice twice. We manage to get a kill. We'll roll for the retaliation. We'll get a 2. No retaliation will happen, so this guy will immediately turn into a settlement. That's it for all the combats. The only thing left to do is to figure out our income for the green player. So we have 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 55, 60, $65 plus. It looks like we have a settlement on everything except for grain fields right now. So that means we're going to get a bonus of $20. So 65 plus 20 is going to be a total of $85 for that round. And we managed to hurt purple's income and take purple down a couple pegs to make sure they don't spread out across the board far too quickly. That's the end of the blue player's turn. We now get to move back over to the white player's turn, who currently has $60, which means they can purchase 6 workers, add those 6 workers onto the board, and figure out exactly what they want to do to start spreading their empire. We'll simply add all these residents into the center board. All but one of them are going to go into the center tile. We'll add 1 more resident over here onto this tile right here, and then we'll go ahead and figure out what we're going to do after we stand up all our residents and take our turn. First thing we will do is we will explore this tile, which will turn this resident into a settlement on this tile, which increases our income. Next thing we will do is we will exhaust 3 workers. 1 of them will be discarded to create a road from our city to this mountain. And now that we managed to move onto a mountain, we're going to move up onto the mountains, earning victory points towards the end of the game. Next thing we'll do is we will take these 3 workers, move all of them over onto this tile right there. We will then, trying to figure out the best way to do this, we want to get victory points. I think what we will do is we'll move these 3 guys, 2 of them like that. Actually, we'll do it like this. This will work out much better. This guy will turn into a settlement. This guy will turn into a settlement. This guy will exhaust right there. We've managed to increase our income. This guy will go over here. This guy will go over here. Each one of them will also turn into a settlement. This, again, also increases our income. So now that we're done all the actions with all of our residents, now we just need to figure out our income for our turn. We happen to have settlements on every single kind of land type except for desert, so that's a bonus of $20, plus our capital is another 20 for 40. 45, 50, 55, 60, 65, 70, 75, 80, 85, 90. So that's going to make us $90. So it was a little bit gutsy moving out like that as far as we did. But the nice bonus is it's going to give us some pretty darn good income, so we at least get a lot of residents on the next turn. Possibly do lots of exploration or possibly start attacking some of the other players. I think I've shown you enough gameplay for this world, the world 645, which is going to be a world where you see that the players are out there trying to build these roads, which are going to give them the majorities, which are going to help them gain the victory points. But you're going to see in this world, unlike in the prior world, roads are even more important because you're going to need them for your victory points. There's also a race because you're racing to be the first person to build those roads, because once those roads are built, there's no point in going after those roads because they're not going to give you victory points. Basically, the only thing you're going to be doing is getting money, which means that warfare is going to be a little bit more important in this world also than in the prior world, because you're going to need to start attacking the other players, getting them off of those spaces, because that's going to be your income for the game. So you've seen 3 different worlds for the game. You've seen 3 modules set up 3 different ways and seen 3 different ways to play the game of 504. If you have any comments or questions, as always, leave them in the YouTube comments down below. You can also feel free to email me at offtheshelfboardgamereviews. That's otsbgr@gmail.com. If you enjoyed this video series and you want to see more like it, hit that subscribe button. Also hit that like button, and thanks for watching. This will be pretty easy for us. We'll just take all 5 of our workers. We're going to put them in our capital city tile right in the center of the board. You do that. Actually, nope, we'll do that.